I open my email and I see this email like Inside Edition, we want to interview you. And I'm like, yeah, right. Like, wait, this is for real. And I just think like, well, I know they were obviously searching for a social media expert to come on and weigh in on this trend and why people love it. But I kind of wonder if I hadn't thrown that trend up, would they have reached out to me?
On cam ready in 3, 2, 1. This is Unknown to Known, an on-cam ready presentation. I'm Jamie Maglietta. Thank you so much for being here. If you like the show, be sure to follow us on your podcasting platform of choice or subscribe to the YouTube channel. I also have the Think Like a Producer podcast and tutorials there. I'm really excited about today's guest. It's Shannon McKinstry. She was one of the first guests I had on my podcast when it was called On Cam Ready. I took some time away from the podcast before relaunching recently in the fall. And I figured, you know what? Since she and I just met in real life at the Reelies, I had to have her on for an update. We talk about her career and what she's been up to. When we first spoke, she had about 90,000 subs on Instagram, and now she has over 300,000 subscribers. She's building a community around showing up as your authentic self. And in the era of AI, it is so important to be yourself and your most thoughtful self across your social media platforms. And she does just that. She showcases who she is, but delivers her thought leadership and builds authority by showing up consistently and helping people across platforms really become their best self on social media. What I also love about Shannon and what she's been doing lately is that she recently got picked up by Inside Edition. That's right. She's a case study, guys. I keep telling you here, show up consistently, build engagement, build that audience, have a community, throw your thought leadership out there on the right platforms and the media will find you. Well, guess what? The media found her and she was featured in Inside Edition. And here's the clip.
Bottle flip.
We just all really want to go back to simpler times, and looking back on life and nostalgia, it kind of just puts us in a safer place.
Ever since New Year's Day 2026, the hashtag 2016 has surged 450%.
As you could see, she was booked on Inside Edition to talk about the 2016 trend. Now, I could go on and on about why you need to show up, but instead, I'll let Shannon explain. Here's our conversation. Shannon, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be back, and it's just good to see you.
It is good to see you. We haven't seen each other since the Reelies, but I'm really glad we could do this.
Me too.
That
only
I can't believe
feels like
you
yesterday.
landed on Inside Edition by showing up consistently on social media, which is what I tell everybody.
Right.
Take us behind that moment. Like, what actually happened?
It was crazy. And I think the funny part is I almost didn't do the trend because I don't get on every trend, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I started going through my personal Instagram, because it was all about the 2016 trend, and I started going through my Instagram, my personal one, and looking at all those images from 2016, I was like, you know what? 2016 was actually a crazy pivotal year for me. It was the year I started showing up, that's the year I created my business Instagram account. So I was like, wow, so much has happened in a decade. So I participated in the trend. I put it up late at night, went to bed. And in the morning, that's when I saw this email. And what's weird is I never check my email on Fridays. So I open my email and I see this email Inside Edition, we want to interview you. And I'm like, yeah, right. That's hilarious. And then I open, I'm like, wait, this is for real. And I just think well, I know they were obviously searching for a social media expert to come on and weigh in on this trend and why people love it. But I kind of wonder if I hadn't thrown that trend up, would they have reached out to me? Right. So just shows post your content. You just never know. So yeah, they emailed me. They said they just found me by searching and, were like, can you be ready by noon for a quick interview? And it was 5 minutes and it was just crazy. It was totally wild. And I had a friend in town, so she got to see the whole thing and we were just cracking up at but this is real life. It's just crazy.
This is real life. And she shares about this on her podcast. You launched a podcast since you were last on. So how's that going? I mean, from LinkedIn, it looks like it's going amazing.
It's going crazy well. Yeah, we started it April 2024. So, right? Yeah. So or was it April 20? Sorry. Yeah. I think it's only about it. I can't remember even when April 2020. I think we have over 500,000 downloads. I just never thought I'd start a podcast, and I didn't know anything about the podcast world except being on them and like seeing people like you have so much fun with it. And I was like, you know what? Maybe the world doesn't need another marketing podcast, but let's give it a shot. But again, it just shows even when you think people don't need it, just put it out, and the people
Yeah. And
who
when you
want to
were
hear from you will listen.
exactly. And when you were on the show, I don't even think you had 100,000 subs on Instagram when you and I connected because I had just left my job at CNN and I was
Yes.
looking for people who were from traditional media and were trying something different and were
Yep.
thriving in other ways. And I came across your social media account and I reached out because I needed that personal inspiration of just being willing to try something else. And
Yeah.
I reached out and you replied and we connected.
Mhm.
And so much has happened since then. Your account is now over 300,000 subscribers on Instagram. Tell
Mhm.
us more about what you've been up to and what you're focusing on now because it was more social media management and now it's not. You have a whole community that you're
Mhm.
working with.
Yeah, and it's crazy, and I mean, I guess since the last time, definitely less I've been able to launch different things that help me reach more people. I was doing a lot more one-on-one, but now with the way my business has grown, I actually don't have as much time for one-on-one, so I have more one-to-many offers, which was different for me, but now I absolutely love it because I'm able to help more people and I'm able to make a bigger impact. And I couldn't have done this without growing because I wouldn't have known, or I don't know if I would have trusted, like, oh, can I really launch these things and
Mhm.
do, like you said, I was very comfortable just doing management, one on one clients or having one on one coaching. Um, and then I got to think bigger
Mhm.
in ways that I didn't think I would have that much of an impact. And I've been able to, which has been incredible.
Yeah. And guys, for those that don't know, I was at the Reelies and she was one of the judges at the Reelies.
Yeah.
And that's a big accomplishment too, to be
It
judging other
is.
people's work.
Yeah, I was honored, and I love Manu. She's brilliant, and she's also, her background's Turner, and
Mhm.
um, but yeah. So when she asked me if I would like help judge the reel, it was such a fun process because I'm like, well, I sit around and watch reels all the time, so now I get to actually like study them and dissect and help give people the
Mhm.
recognition they deserve because this can be a very lonely space creating content and being entrepreneurs. So it's just a great way to celebrate each other.
Yeah, it is. And it was a lot of fun. I really liked it. I thought it was great. While we're talking, guys, I shared in the intro what she's up to, but here's her podcast. Good content. Shannon, what I really was impressed about with this podcast is that you have over 148 recommendations and comments. Like, what?
Yeah,
Girl,
I
that's
know.
incredible.
I love my people. They're the best. Like I just adore my people. And I just, again, I was like, no one wants to listen to me yap about marketing. So it's just crazy that people are liking it as much as because again, I can only give so much in a reel. I can only give
Yeah.
so much in a carousel. So it's cool to be able to give people even more
Mm-hmm.
context behind the tips I'm sharing.
Yeah, and that's something I've been testing out recently since August on YouTube, and mine is under the name Think Like a Producer, and I just
Mm.
decided to send it to audio platforms in addition to YouTube. And it was weekly, and now I'm trying a daily just because every day I feel like I have a tip for someone who's trying to lean
Yes.
into the new media space. It's like 8 minutes. It's way better than me trying to fit it into a 30-second, social media reel.
1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah,
And again, we're
so
not
far.
right. Well, and I always say, like, we kind of scroll passively, right? We like take in a little info, we save it to go watch later. But a podcast, when you're listening, you're more dialed in. So you can truly help them even more.
Yeah, and here, guys, I'll show you her YouTube while we're at it. Um, with your YouTube, you're at, as of this conversation, you're at over 3,000. You
Mhm.
have a really good engagement on your views. I would say your engagement on your reels, your shorts is incredible here too, which translates, that your Instagram audience is definitely coming to YouTube and following you to these other platforms, which is actually really hard to do. A lot of professionals struggle with getting people to take them off platform. They
Yes.
build this audience on Instagram and everyone's like, push them to an email list. Great. But then you still have to get that next step of going to YouTube, going to TikTok,
Yep.
whatever other platform you're focused on.
Yep.
Do you have any advice on how to get people to those other platforms that you've been testing out that seems to work?
I do think email is actually the best for that, for me at least. um, Only because I think, especially, I like to think like an Instagram user, right? Because I always tell
Yeah.
people when they get so stuck, I'm like, but what would you do? Would you want to, when you're on someone's story, then leave this Instagram scroll you're already into to go to a YouTube and sign up? Probably not. You kind of
Mhm.
want to stay on the app and have that experience. But email, I find when I go, oh, here, check out my YouTube, check out Pinterest, check out this. Those clicks are high, and you can track them too to see.
Yeah.
You can track that a lot better. Um, but every week when I do have my podcasts, I will typically share and be like, oh, it's on YouTube too. And that will get some, but email is great for converting people to different platforms. But still, Instagram stories are a great way. Just throw the link in there and you might not get a huge jump to other platforms, but it doesn't hurt to do it.
Mhm.
Stories are an incredible way to convert overall. But to get them to go to other platforms is really good too.
And when we connected, we were talking about the power of stories, and it's good to
Mhm.
hear that it's still where you make your sales, essentially.
Still to this day, I tell everyone, I'm like, I don't know if I'd have a business without Instagram stories. I just always like to joke, like, I'm a really bad salesperson. I'm not good at
Mhm.
selling myself, but stories are where I've always really connected with people.
Mhm.
And they just naturally started converting. And I was like, whoa. And all I'm doing is talking about things I'm working on. And
Yeah.
I would talk about it and people are like, wait, what? What do you do? You have this? Oh, where do I get it? I was like, oh, okay, here, here's the link. And then
Yeah.
it kind of happened naturally. Because again, I'm not a
I
saleswoman. I don't teach sales, but human connection is.
Human connection, and
Mhm.
that's like the port that you and I were talking about
Yep.
when we first discussed stories, and I was trying to navigate, like, how do I show up on camera and how do I do
Mhm.
this online? And, guys, here's her social media if you're not already following. I'll make sure there's a link to this as well as to her podcast and YouTube channel in the description. But like as you see, you're not one of those people who stays true to like a consistent font. It's
Mm-mm.
very much like you. It feels
Mm-mm.
it way. At least it feels that way. It may not be you at this point all the time, but it just feels like you are posting with passion and with clarity, but also like you're not focusing so much on what's my template that I got to stick with. Am I right by that assumption?
Oh, 1000%. Yeah. And I always say to people, I'm like, I'm the laziest content creator you'll ever meet because I don't have a lot of time. So I kind of just train myself not to overthink it. And sometimes I'll use my brand fonts. Sometimes I'll use Instagram fonts.
Mm.
Um, but you do want something recognizable. But I think since I'm in almost all my content that I'm like, okay, then it'll be my face that's
Or the
recognizable.
recognizable part. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I also just like to have fun and I don't, I just don't want to feel like my content has to always fit in a box and that it needs to look a certain way or that I only share a carousel on Tuesdays, right? It's like whatever I
Yeah.
feel that day is what I share. And I know a
And
lot of
that's
people have to
the
batch in advance, but I don't like it. But there's no one way to do it.
And that's the thing that I've realized is there is no one way to do it.
Mhm.
And so I was in your community at one point and I loved it how everyone was so engaging and supportive on the
Mhm.
Facebook group. And then if you guys go to her website, she has this, download you can buy. And then the community, I think it's like 200 and something a month at this point as of this recording.
Mhm.
From that, do you also guide everybody to kind of just be yourself? Yeah.
Yes. And I think that's the hardest part sometimes for people. They just
Yeah.
don't, they're trying to perform
Hmm.
and no one really wants the performance anymore. We just want off the cuff type content that feels like we're FaceTiming with a friend. And
Hmm.
so many people in my industry, we've all been saying this forever, but now I think it's starting to click. I think people are really starting to
Yeah.
see, especially with the age of AI, which obviously great perks with that, but also people just are more um aware
Hmm.
and they can tell if something's fake or if it's not. And, even if you're trying to be fake in front of the camera. And
Hmm.
there's just so much freedom in that, right? Because I think
Yeah.
in other jobs, I always felt like I had to show up a certain way or say things one way, dress this way, right? And now social media really does give you that freedom to express yourself and share your passions. And I'm crazy passionate about what I do, almost too much. So that's why I find it easy because I just talk about what I would want to tell a client, and that's what I share.
Mhm. And that's awesome. You've also been sharing a lot on LinkedIn,
Mm.
and that has gone bonkers, in my opinion, having watched
Yes,
you grow on LinkedIn, like
that's been
over
crazy.
13,000 right now on LinkedIn as of what are we, January 27th?
Mhm.
So, any thoughts on how people can show up strategically and apply kind of your methods to LinkedIn?
Oh, absolutely. So LinkedIn, I approach more as almost like what I would write on threads, things like that. It's like that thought leadership, those hot takes and opinions and mic drop quote unquote moments
Mhm.
about my own industry. Um, and I don't do a lot of image heavy LinkedIn. I've had a few like fun memes on LinkedIn I've done that have gone viral, but they're always about the social media marketing world and what it's like to be a marketer. And I'll give hot takes on trends I see, like again, the 2016 trend. Like, why did this do so well? Um, so really positioning yourself as a thought leader on LinkedIn is the way to go. Um, and I remember I saw like basically when people or moan or, complain about something in their industry, people go crazy. They love that, right? It's almost like the water cooler talk. That's
Mhm.
kind of what LinkedIn is. Um, and oftentimes I'll just start something out with just like hot take and give my hot take. So people love that and they want to weigh in. It really is a very conversational world over there. And I've had a lot of success recently. And I only post there like once a week. I just make sure that post packs a punch and it typically does really, really well.
And that's the thing with LinkedIn, and I tell people on this show as well as on my YouTube, LinkedIn, you could post once a week. You do not need to be there every day. Now, if you're
No.
going the video strategy route, you may want to because
Mm,
they will push those videos out and potentially help you find your audience.
mhm.
But having tested it, I almost think people that are starting out on LinkedIn are better off with like that, what you're doing, like that powerful once a week type
Mm,
post. And they can really start to attract the media. Now, if there's news that breaks within their niche, I always say, like, you got to make the exception. You might have already
yeah,
posted that week, but you got to add another if it's
yeah,
relevant and makes
yep,
you the authority and showcases you as the authority, essentially.
mhm.
Yeah.
That's it, and I love it too because if you don't feel like you're an authority figure yet,
Hmm.
that's a great place to just start showing up as one. I
Yeah.
mean, if you wanna be in that space, and that's where I started really being like, "No, I really want people to take me more seriously, and I really wanna get speaking on stages," and I feel like LinkedIn really helped me do that because while Instagram, that's my main thing and I love it, I'm not drawn to all the social media platforms. So I really was like, okay, what are my two golden platforms? And I was like, they're going to be LinkedIn and Instagram.
Hmm.
TikTok is just a playground for me. I just put up whatever I feel like putting up, and I just experiment a lot over there. But LinkedIn, I want to make sure I'm putting stuff out there for my fellow people in my world to know and
Hmm.
understand. And
Which is great. I think
mhm,
that's the smart approach. Like whenever I'm advising people and I'm saying to them, if you're trying to be strategic online and attract the press, that's usually my hook. It's like attract the
yeah,
press or attract clients or opportunity. You want to be where they are. So if you feel like the people that are hiring you for speaking are on LinkedIn, you should be on LinkedIn.
there you
If
go.
you want to be more in touch with journalists, you may want to be on Twitter, X. Guys, that's still relevant. However, Threads is a thriving playground for journalists. So
I
it's
love
good that,
threads.
you do both. Yeah. Are
Mhm.
you finding that too?
Oh yeah, I think, and again, what I'll do oftentimes is when I'm having this moment, this like, I want to say something about that. Or like I have that moment of like, I want to weigh in. I'll start on threads. And if it does
Mm.
well, I'll turn it into a reel. I'll throw it on LinkedIn. So I love that you said playground because threads too. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Threads as well is one of those places where I don't really weigh heavily. Like, okay, if I get 20 likes opposed to like 500, it's fine. I don't care. It's a great place to experiment and just see
Hmm.
what lands with people, what words grab them. And then obviously really look at your comments. Like, don't just put stuff up when you're getting a lot of comments on something, look at the comments, and I will get even more ideas from the comments.
Yeah.
Or someone's like, oh my gosh, I had never thought of it that way. I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe I can go on Reels now and say, hey, have you ever thought about blank this way? Like, I'll use their own words so that content lands even more heavily with people.
And as you're listening, guys, if you hear this and you're catching on, like Shannon, you're essentially a case study to everything I say on this show. You
I
really
love it.
are. And I
Yeah.
love that because you're living proof that if you show up and share your point of view on
Yeah.
topics of interest, on trends, on, news that's related to your niche, it helps
Yep.
elevate you as an authority figure, which essentially led to your Inside Edition moment, really
Yep.
proving, that visibility outshines pitching. And I think
I
that that's
love
really
that.
cool.
I love
I
that.
really do. I love how that was the last thing that happened to you right before we talked. I was like, "Oh my gosh." So
So
perfect.
fun. I love that though. Cause yeah, I think, and again, before social media, if you wanted to go after something or do something, I mean, you had to, let's be real, creating content, showing up is a grind. But I mean, you had to be at every networking event. You had to show up to everything. Now it's like, okay, I can just put my thoughts and opinions and expertise out
Mhm.
into the world, and eventually someone's going to see it. I mean, but again, for me, it's been a decade of working my booty off,
Mhm.
in between, you know, moving and obviously the pandemic. And there's like all these
Mhm.
things that could have stopped a lot of people. And you just got to keep, if you love something that much, you just keep going. And um, social media makes that, I don't want to say easy because people don't like to hear that, but makes it possible, makes it, approachable. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what I always tell people is you want to make sure that if you're trying to attract, like using your social media to attract the press,
Mm.
to land speaking opportunities, again, you want to be where they are and you kind of want to rotate your content around like the four chairs that hold you up. Like in a TV news show, we're not just always talking about politics. You're weaving in the other concepts of the day that really help round out the show. And
Yep.
you, as your show, need to be doing the same. And I notice that you
Mhm.
do that. You're always very thoughtful, like, here's a tip, here's a little bit about my life, but through the lens of what I do as a social media creator. And I
Mhm.
think that that's also worth checking out, guys. If you're listening, go to her Instagram, LinkedIn, and kind of evaluate what she's up to because it's a really smart strategy to attract. And I also want to say that, you're carving out your path on YouTube. You're basically setting up your land stakes and building a house
Mhm.
there. And
Mhm.
I think that that's also really smart because as a journalist, if I'm pitched or someone comes across your name, I'm going to be looking at LinkedIn. I'm going to look at
Mhm.
Twitter or X or Threads, depending on where I like to hang out as a journalist. And then I'm going to go to YouTube and I'm going to say, well, do we have any clips of her in an interview talking to someone to showcase how she's engaging with other people in an
Mhm.
interview style?
Yep.
And by rounding yourself out online, and then even now you have your Inside Edition clip, like that
Yeah.
makes you more appealing to more media outlets. And I think, that's great for you and your brand personally.
Yeah. No, and I'm excited to hear that because I was like, "Ooh," and, like, will this lead to more
Mhm.
opportunities like that? And I just really hope it does. And it was kinda nice to
Yeah.
just that it happened so quick, I didn't have time to think about it. So I was like, "Oh, that just happened, and now I have it, and now I feel more prepared if it happens again."
Mhm. Yeah, and now you just market it, like,
Yeah.
you gotta strategically position it in all the ways that the media can then see you were spotlighted, you were
Yeah.
highlighted on legitimate, traditional news,
Yeah.
essentially, which is great.
Yes.
I think that's again, you're a case study, which I love. Um,
Aw.
so what do you do for clients who are just struggling to figure out how to show up? I mean, like I have a basic understanding of what my mission is, who I'm trying to
Mhm.
talk to. But when you have clients that don't really know that much, like how do you kind of guide them? Is there a process that you take them through to get them to know this is how I need to show up?
Yeah. So I always say, if you're trying to find your voice, if you're like, how do I want to show up? Stories, again, are the best place to start because they disappear. So if you're like, that's how I got comfortable documenting, sharing, and it's how I started to understand what my audience wanted from me. So when I would get on stories and talk about what I was doing that day, and I would get DMs, just pay attention to what people are responding to when they're watching your content and what words they're holding on to and what things that make them relate to you and why they enjoy watching you, right? So, because I've been doing this way before Reels, and video wasn't even like a thing on Instagram, but it was like stories and posts. So I didn't really use my voice in my content. It was just written, which I love writing. So that was like, ooh, easy peasy. So before Reels came about, by the time Reels came out, I felt comfortable because I've been active on stories for years. So I think stories are a really good way to just experiment, have fun, and like you said, playground. It's like I tell people, especially my clients, if they're first getting started, I'm like, get on camera
Mhm.
in the morning, just after you've had your coffee, got ready for the day, just be like, hey guys, and just talk about what you're up to that day. Or talk about an epiphany you had this morning, or talk about something that just happened with a client, with a customer, and just tell the story and just get comfortable. And I often tell people, if you're really scared and nervous, do it in your car, right?
Mhm. Which is the best lighting.
Uh, seriously. And that's another thing. I'm like, find out when the best lighting is. I always joke, I'm like, I know where the lighting is best in my driveway. I know because our house doesn't have the best lighting. That's why we're in the middle of creating my podcast studio because the lighting is just horrible. So just find that good lighting, record when you're in a good mood. And oftentimes record when something funny just happened that you are like, oh my gosh, I got to tell, someone has to hear this, right? Um, so that you can really start feeling, and when you watch it back, does it sound like you? Is it you? Are you performing? Right? Because there's some of my early reels, I'm like, who is that person? That I do not talk like that, right? I was trying to I wasn't ready. It was different. But
Mhm.
stories, I always was me. So I had to eventually get it so that, okay, my reels need to sound like stories, Shannon, as well. Um, but yeah, I think that the best thing you can do, and just know that like people are interested in what you have to say. They're interested in the coffee order you have. They're interested in all of
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note, having come from that journalistic background, sometimes we would, at least I don't know if this is how you felt, we tend to sound like anchors because that's how we
Yes.
were raised away in a way. And if you're someone who listens to cable news or listens to the radio, you may find yourself sounding like that too when you're talking on camera. So it's
Mhm.
really good to audit yourself, watch it back, make sure you're not going on camera like, "Hi, I'm Jamie Maglietta and
Right.
this is Shannon McKinstry and we're here for a podcast chat." You really want to make sure that you're not sounding like that because people
Yeah.
don't relate to it.
Right. It is. It's funny because it's like almost like think of the culture of
Mhm.
it's just different. When we turn on the news, we want to hear that. When
Yeah.
we turn on something else, I like to compare it to like, I would say TikTok is like a trip with your cousins. It's like unhinged, it's silly. Instagram is like a networking event with like it's still a little polished, but it's not, it's like, it's how you talk with your, I guess coworkers, like again,
Mhm.
around the water cooler. But then
Yeah.
LinkedIn is a little more how you would talk at on stage if you were on
Mhm.
stage. So like kind of think about it that way. Like I always tell my people, I'm like, make up what you think each one is, like what makes more sense to you as
Mhm.
far as like in-person settings. Because
Yeah.
I think the more we stop thinking about social media as an online thing and more of like real life situations, the better. So it's like, how would you talk to someone? What would you say to them? And that's how you want to talk. Just
Yeah.
like it's FaceTime. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be polished and yeah, in your anchor speak. It doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah. And your journey, from unknown to known within your niche has been a long one. Like a lot of people are seeing you now.
For
And that's
sure.
the other problem I think individuals have is they look at your success like, oh my gosh, she's so amazing. I want to be here. I'm not her right now. Why is that not happening? I need that. Like in this conversation, you've said over and over again, it's been like years, 10 years, long time focusing on this. And this journey from unknown to known, I'm sure there were hiccups along the way. Were there any mistakes or moves that you made that you're like, gosh, I learned so much from doing this wrong and now
Mhm.
I'm better at X? Was there any time you have those moments or did you have any hurdles, like even personally, that you're like, I overcame this and it kind of pushed me to even go harder into my business?
Yeah, I think, well, the biggest one is just the imposter syndrome, but it doesn't
Yeah.
go away. I have it. That's why I've kind of trained my algorithm not to show me content from people in my niche because I'm like, oh, I'm not good. I suck. I quit.
Yeah.
We all have that. And that's just obviously something that's just ingrained in me. It's just who I am. So, but I love it because what I've found that has helped me is when I do start doing that, I'm like, how can I create content from this?
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's been times I've literally created content about imposter syndrome, or there's times that maybe someone in my niche said something that I don't agree with. And then instead of getting all mad and like, I wish people would create the content, use that to create the content to remind people what, you know, what my advice is or what the best route to take is. But I think that's pretty much probably the biggest hurdle for me. And it's still a hurdle, right? It's like, no, I deserve to be here. There, right? Like there were so many times I was like, well, I'll never get there. So might as well just throw in the towel now. But
Yeah.
it's definitely years and years of just, but yeah, I think that was pretty much the biggest one. And then of course, taking on clients that just drained me and didn't know my worth, but that's just part of the process.
It
It's
is.
just part of it. You got to
I'm
do it.
learning it now. I see people in the visibility space and I'm like, oh,
I
I
know.
can't be her. You know, I'm more of like a media strategist. It's like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, okay, you need to be creating your social media like this every single day. But I am going
Right.
to help people figure out what's the type of messaging that you want to put out into the world that's going to help you build an
Yes.
audience in however you want to do it.
Yeah.
And I use my CNN background, my journalistic background to really help people strategize how to map out who they are online. Do you credit anything back to your CNN days that really help you with the way you look at content differently that make you more of an authority over this niche?
I think for one, and I always joke about it, like, I don't know, some people call me a hook fairy. They're like, oh, my fairy, or they call me like
You are
hook
good.
godmother. Yeah. They're like, you're a fairy godmother with hooks. And I'm like, it's so funny. And I credit the newsroom for hooks majorly. And I think it's because I always was obsessed with, and I remember sitting in the control room because for a while I ran the fonts and graphics in the control room. And so when I would see like a typo or, I don't know, I think just like knowing how they were structured and why producers and people would structure things that way. I've always been obsessed with dissecting that stuff and headlines. I always credit that. I'm like, and even now watching the Today Show every day, I'm like, oh, that's a good one. Like I love seeing the footer and all that stuff. It's just, so I was like, I think my obsession with hooks started back then.
Yeah.
So it's like a silly, fun thing that I look back on. I'm like, that's where it all kind of started. Like this love of, and just again, love of grabbing people's attention and telling them a story.
And that does help you really stand out, in my mind, even as an authority, because you have that background knowledge. It's like when you come from such an elite place, you know what the expectations are. But one of the things that I didn't have much access to was data. And that in the social media space has been thrilling to see
Yes.
instant responses, to see
Yes.
engagement. I mean, in TV, you didn't really have that. It's fun.
It is fun. I know. I love.
I nerd out
data.
over it.
I do too. I love it. And I always joke that I'm not a numbers person as far as like math, but I love the data that, especially that Instagram gives us. It's wild.
Yeah. I've been focusing on YouTube and the growth there has been great. It's as of this recording, I see about 2 to 3 subs a day, which is super awesome in that, but I just got vidIQ. I'm an affiliate now, so I'll put a link down there. I don't know if I get like
Fun.
5 cents. But what I love about vidIQ is you can literally see, is this headline going to work? Is it not? You could do A/B testing. I'm like,
Oh, amazing.
oh, I think
Yes.
Instagram needs to be doing something like this.
Yeah. I mean, it's so, and yeah, now I love that Instagram now has retention time.
Wait,
So you
what's
can
that?
like see.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So you can literally see where people just go, I'm
Drop
bored.
off.
And then you're just like, so now you can fix it.
Yeah. And the trial reels. I think more people
Yes,
need
I'm
to try
obsessed.
those.
Oh yeah. I love trial reels.
So do you
And
have any predictions or thoughts for for Instagram in 2026, or any tips on what people should be doing there?
Yeah, I think it's basically, and again, I called it in 2024. I have all these videos in 2024 that I like to show people where I'm like, you guys start talking with me and I and we and our hooks, meaning like instead of how to, how I, or
Mhm.
instead of 3 ways to, it's 3 ways I. Um,
Mm.
that's why almost all of my hooks, at least in my caption or on screen, will have my how I create content and da da da, how my favorite content creation tools, not just 3 content creation tools.
Yeah.
It's from lived experience, and I keep ingraining that into people's heads. I'm like, your content, if it is, especially if it's something educational, it needs to be from your own lived experience, right? So you'll see them everywhere, carousels that are like, here's my morning routine from a type B mom of 3 girls, whatever, something like that, right? So for you, it would be like, um, how to structure or how to build a LinkedIn following from someone who, you know, worked
Mhm.
in news and da da da. It's basically goes back to that authority thing, but it's like these carousels are crazy that I see and they're going to continue to do well on Instagram. So really great for people who are a little nervous to talk on camera yet, or just want to not have to show up on camera all the time. Reels are still going to be insanely amazing for growth too. But same thing when you're sharing a story or you're sharing your perspective or whatever it is, it needs to be from your own lived experience as much as you can, so that we know why do I care about this from this person, right?
Yeah.
Um, so hooks with really powerful statements. And I love another thing that I see doing really, really well is just really descriptive words.
Mm.
So even I see it a lot with like the food creators. So even if it's like brownie recipe. No, it's like brown butter, da, da, da. Like you want to make sure you're putting in words so the algorithm has as much as it can to get to show these your videos to the right people.
Mm.
So and using words that people can attach to. So words like phrases, CNN, Amazon, um, 2016 trend, right? You want to use those phrases, words, anything that people can recognize so that when they see Jamie, they don't go, "Who's this?" They go, "Oh, she's talking about something relevant to me."
Mhm.
Or, "Oh, she worked in news. Let me see what she has to say." Because there's so much content out there. There's
So
so
much.
much. You have to make them care. So whenever something doesn't do well and someone shows me, I'm like, "Why didn't this do well?" I'm like, "It's missing it's missing something to grab them and hold their attention." Um, so that's why I always tell my nutritionists and stuff. I'm like, if you're going to give them a meal plan, make it Trader Joe's edition, Aldi
Mm.
edition, or say from a dietitian who lost 40 pounds naturally. You
Mhm.
got to make them care. So anything you
Yeah.
can add in there. And that's a great thing for ChatGPT also. Um, so if you want to succeed right now, you got to make sure you're coming with it and that the words you're using grab them, because we're bored and we're
Mhm.
swiping, scrolling, we're very, very fast. So you got to grab us.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And a lot of times we don't even, I mean, at least me, I don't live by my own examples. Like I'll critique other people's stuff, but then when it
Yep.
comes to me, I'm like, well, this is what I can do right now. And,
Hmm.
if you're listening and that's how you feel, just maybe run it through ChatGPT with
There
some
you go.
ideas and say, hey, can you make this a little better? I need to hit these points. How best can I adjust my copy? And
Hmm.
do that before you
Yeah.
record.
And even when I see like viral crazy reels, like I'll take a picture, I'll take a screenshot of the
Hmm.
hook, throw it in a ChatGPT and be like, how can you templatize this for me and
Mm.
keep the structure. And I want to talk about whatever it is, my content planning system. And it'll
Hmm.
give me like 10 versions of the hook. And it doesn't always get it, but at least it gets it going for you.
That's amazing. That's a
It's a
great
really
point
fun little
too.
hack. Mhm.
So before we go, I just want to bring up 2 points. One, you've been shooting B-roll with your husband, right? For a long time, where you guys
Yeah.
do these B-roll dates.
Mhm.
W Are you still doing it, is what I
Oh,
wanna
yeah.
know.
Oh, yeah. At least once a month, because I always joke I'm usually like in a t-shirt and sweats, right? So once a month, but on the weekends, we get out of the house all the time. And once a month, we make sure one of those is somewhere kind of although Instagram is not as obsessed with the aesthetics as it used to be, it still is kind of like that pretty app that we all know and love. So I'll usually try to find somewhere fun, like a really trendy um, coffee shop or somewhere that looks vibey, if you will. And we'll go and I'll bring my laptop and
Mhm.
obviously my tripod and all that. And I'll just shoot B-roll of me typing, eating, walking, driving. I've used so much B-roll of me just driving. And
Mhm.
I'm not looking at the camera, obviously. And I'm just putting them, I call them text first reels, meaning
Mhm.
the footage is the backdrop, right? It's the,
Yeah.
right. So, and that text is the star. So something you write on X or that you write on Threads. It doesn't really need footage to go with it, but,
Mhm.
um,
It just needs a visual hook.
it just needs a visual hook. And so you can
Mhm.
use that random video of you driving or walking to a
Mhm.
coffee shop or typing away. Um, and yeah, and it's fun because it's a write-off. So you can pick up.
Exactly. And that's like really good tip for anyone who's an entrepreneur. I host content days where I do like
Yes.
a workshop and teach people how to record themselves. Through
Mhm.
the producer's eye, I'm like, this is what you need to do. Set up your lights, set up your cameras. And I still love the authority reels where you're talking to camera. I think that
Mm.
those are really good for people who want press and want media or
Yes.
want to yeah. But I still say to them, like, you also wanna have that B-roll to break it up.
Yeah, and days like a day like today, right? Got we're not snowed in, but for North Carolina, we're snowed in.
Yeah.
School's canceled, and we're probably like days like this where I might not have time to do great makeup, nice lighting. I
Mhm.
lean on that B-roll from 3 months ago, 6 months ago, right? And then I just grab a thread that I wrote a month ago or this morning when I had brain cells, and I just throw it there and add some trending audio, and I'm done.
Exactly.
I do at least 2 of
Exactly.
those a week because 'cause they're a great way to still get some content out on days that you're tired, and still wanna help people and still wanna get your
Mhm.
message heard.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And before we go, I really wanted to ask about your speaking. So, if we were to meet again in a year, what are you hoping to get done in this year? Do you wanna do more speaking? Is that your goal?
Yes, and my dream speaking is actually happening, and I don't write on X like I used to, I should, but I think I wrote it like 5 years ago there, I gotta go find it. But I was like, "I wanna speak on stage at," and I named the conference, and I'm one of their 4 keynotes this year, which is
Congrats.
insane. Thank you. I'm like, it's crazy. I don't even know how this is possible, but, it's social media marketing world. So for the social media marketers, it's a big, fun conference, and I always wanted to go. I couldn't afford it, because I didn't make any money for the first 5 years in my business. And I spoke there last year. And then they asked me this year if I want to be one of the keynotes. And I was like, I'm going to pass out. But yes, I would love to. So that's in April.
Oh, that's
So I
awesome.
guess hopefully that will lead to another huge, amazing. I would love to speak at one of the like Canva conferences, ManyChat, like all those
Mm.
brands that I'm obsessed with and use daily and couldn't survive without. That would be really fun
Oh, I
to be
hope
on
that
stage at
for
one of
you.
those. Yeah, that would be really cool.
Well, you know better than me, but you better be shooting that horizontal while you're there and make
I
that
know.
speaker reel.
I know. Isn't that funny? I'm like, "Oh my gosh, we forget to shoot horizontal," which is all we knew, and now I'm like, "Shannon, turn it." I can't,
Just get
it's, like,
that
so
little
hard.
pocket, the Osmo
I have it.
pocket or
I have it. I got
yeah.
it so that my husband can shoot it there because I was like, we both just always just go right like this. It's like, I forget it.
Exactly, and then
So bad.
I had a videographer for an event. I was like, "Oh, shoot it however you want," and then I looked and I was like, "Oh, yeah, he did vertical. Shoot."
All
I should have
vertical.
said, "Shoot it however you want, horizontally, so we
Horizontally.
can cut it down the middle if we need to."
Yes, leave the space and then yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny.
Well, I'm excited for you. Congratulations, and
Thank
thank you so much
you.
for joining us.
Of course, and it was so good to see you in real life, and,
Mhm.
hopefully we'll be in real life together again one day.
Yeah, me too. I hope so.
But I just
One
love
day.
that. Yes, but I just love that these apps bring us together. It's just really cool.
Yeah, it is. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, and I
Thank you
will
for
be
having
following
me.
you.
Yay! It's right back at ya.